We lost all of our neighbors around us.
Then got a job in Lawrence, Kansas, and was living there at the time of the tornado.
Behind the calm appearance of these endless wheat fields, Kansas is actually home to some of the craziest and most unexpected towns in America. From a giant ball of twine that keeps getting bigger, to a legendary gateway to hell. In this video, we're going to explore the other side of Kansas, a place where weirdness has become a proud identity. Let's start with Cawker City, a small town that has something completely unbelievable. This is where you'll find the world's largest ball of sisal twine. It all started back in 1953 when a farmer named Frank Stober, either out of boredom or pure genius, began winding up leftover twine from his farm. At first, it was just 1 loop, then 2, until it became 1 ton, then 2 tons, and he never stopped. Today, the ball weighs more than 10 tons. Its circumference is about 36 feet. And what makes this even crazier? Everyone who visits is invited to add their own piece of twine. There's even an annual festival called Twine-a-thon, where hundreds of people gather. Not for a concert, not for a competition, but simply to wrap more twine together. A town whose entire identity truly revolves around a giant ball of string. Not far from there, in Abilene, you'll find something just as absurd. The world's largest belt buckle. It stands 8 feet tall, weighs 2 tons, and proudly sits right next to the Dwight D. Eisenhower Museum, the 34th President of the United States who was born in this town. Think about that for a second. On one side, there's a museum dedicated to a military leader who helped change the course of World War II. On the other side, there's a 2-ton belt buckle. Both stand side by side. It seems like Kansas has an unwritten rule. If you want to be remembered, become the biggest, or the most oddly specific. And here's the funny part. That giant belt buckle gets photographed more often than the museum itself. Now let's move to Lucas, a town known as the grassroots art capital of America. And the moment you arrive, you'll immediately understand why. This is where you'll find the Garden of Eden, a 40-foot-tall concrete sculpture garden created by a former Civil War soldier named Samuel Dinsmore. But this isn't just art. It's a manifesto, a massive work that mixes politics, religion, and radical views on life, all frozen in concrete. But wait, who exactly was Dinsmore? He started this bizarre project when he was 64 years old. He built it entirely by himself and kept working on it until he was 89. More than 113 tons of concrete, all shaped by one elderly man. He also married his 20-year-old housekeeper when he himself was 81 years old. And the strangest part of all, in his will, Dinsmore requested that his body be preserved and displayed in his own garden. To this day, you can pay $1 to see his body, as if even after death he still wanted people to listen to him. But strangely enough, that has also helped the town. Lucas, with a population of only around 400 people, attracts thousands of tourists every year, all coming to see a dead man inside a glass coffin. And if that still isn't enough, head over to Goodland. Right in the middle of empty fields and open prairie, you'll find a giant replica of Vincent van Gogh's Sunflowers painting. It stands 80 feet tall, made of steel, and can be seen from the highway. It's part of a project called the Big Easel, created by artist Cameron Cross, who built 7 giant Van Gogh replicas in 7 different countries. And somehow, one of them ended up here, in Kansas. Van Gogh's original Sunflowers painting sold for $39.9 million in 1987. This replica, meanwhile, stands alone in the middle of the grasslands. And here's a fact you probably never wanted to know. Van Gogh himself never even set foot in America. Yet somehow, his work still ended up stranded in the middle of Kansas. But Kansas is not just about charming weirdness. There's another side to it, one that is much darker. Welcome to Atchison, often called one of the 10 most haunted towns in America. Yes, this is also the birthplace of Amelia Earhart, the aviation legend and the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. Her childhood home still stands today and has been turned into a museum. But behind those beautiful Victorian houses, there are very different stories hiding in the shadows. One of them is the Sally House, a home that has been the subject of paranormal investigations for decades. Next is Stull. Its population is only around 20 people. You could drive right past it without even noticing. But its reputation, that reaches around the world. According to legend, Stull Cemetery is home to a gateway to hell. The story was first published by a University of Kansas student newspaper in 1974, and since then, no one has been able to stop it. Every year, local police have to deal with hundreds of people showing up with shovels, cameras, and who knows what else. They're all searching for something they don't even know how to find. The old church at the center of the legend was eventually torn down in 2002. But people still keep coming, because it turns out destroying the building did not destroy the story. Behind all the weirdness and mystery, there is one thing that truly defines Kansas: resilience. On May 4th, 2007, an EF5 tornado, the highest category on the tornado scale, struck Greensburg with winds exceeding 205 miles per hour. In less than 10 minutes, 95% of the town was flattened. But strangely enough, out of 1,400 residents, only 11 people were killed. Early warning systems saved most of the population. The town itself, however, was almost completely wiped away. That could have been the end of the story. But it wasn't. The people of Greensburg decided not just to rebuild, but to rebuild differently. They transformed their town into the first community of its size in the world, to run on 100% renewable wind energy. Out of destruction came a new identity. Electricity bills dropped, wind turbines appeared everywhere, and the town that was almost erased from the map has now become a global example of sustainable development. Now we're getting into something truly tiny. Elk Falls. It has fewer than 100 residents. It still has a post office, and it still stands with its head held high. But what makes Elk Falls truly unique is a tradition you would never expect. Every October, the town hosts the Outhouse Tour, a tour of antique outdoor toilets from the 1800s, creatively decorated by local homeowners. Hundreds of people come just to see these old outhouses. Since the 2000s, artists from all over America have started moving here. They're drawn by property prices that are almost unbelievably cheap, with average home prices around $48,300. A town that was nearly forgotten is slowly turning into an artist colony. Next is Garden City. This town is home to an outdoor swimming pool built in 1922, and it is about the size of a football field. Not because the people here love swimming more than anyone else, or because they are somehow better divers, but because the city sits directly above the Ogallala Aquifer, the largest underground water reserve in North America. Water is everywhere here, and they decided to celebrate it. But Garden City is not just about water. Outside town, there is the Sand Sage Bison Range, where herds of wild bison have been protected since the frontier days. These animals were nearly wiped out in the 19th century after being hunted almost to extinction. Now they roam freely here, as if nothing ever happened. And there is one more thing about Garden City that people rarely talk about. It is one of the most multicultural towns in Kansas. Its beef industry attracts workers from dozens of countries. In the local markets and schools, you can hear more than 20 different languages being spoken in a single day. From Garden City, we head east to the town of Wilson. Its population is only around 700 people. But the moment you arrive, something feels different. The street names, the church architecture, the restaurant menus. Everything seems to speak another language, Czech. Wilson was founded in the 1870s by immigrants from Bohemia and Moravia, regions that are now part of the Czech Republic. They brought their culture, food, and traditions with them, and they never truly left them behind. Every year the town hosts Česká národní slavnost, or the Czech National Festival, a tradition that has continued since 1974. Traditional costumes, folk music, and Central European food fill the streets of this small town. And just outside town there is Wilson Lake, whose water is so clear that it has become a popular diving destination. In the middle of Kansas, in a state with no coastline, divers come from all over America just to experience this unusually clear freshwater lake. Ottawa. It's a familiar name. But the story behind it is not as simple as you might think. The town was named after the Ottawa tribe, a Native American nation, but the Ottawa people were not originally from Kansas. They came from Ohio, and they ended up here not by choice. Today, the town's name is one of the few reminders that they were ever here at all. But this small town also holds a very unusual world record. In the center of town stands Plaza 1907, a movie theater recognized as one of the oldest continuously operating cinemas in the world. Yet there is another side to Ottawa that feels completely different. Every fall, millions of monarch butterflies pass over the town during their annual migration to Mexico. Ottawa is known as one of the best places to witness this incredible natural phenomenon. For explorers and traders in the 19th century, there was one town that meant everything: Council Grove. This was the last major departure point along the Santa Fe Trail, the most important trade route connecting Missouri to New Mexico. Once you left Council Grove, you were entering territory with no guarantees. There is a large oak tree here that locals call the boundary marker between the civilized world and the wilderness. People would stop here to write final letters to their families, buy supplies, and pray before continuing west. The town has more than 25 nationally registered historic buildings packed within just a few blocks. Almost every old building in downtown Council Grove holds a story from a time when America was still trying to understand just how vast it really was. From Council Grove, we move to Lindsborg, and suddenly everything feels Scandinavian. The town is known as Little Sweden, USA. When Swedish settlers arrived here in 1869, they brought their entire cultural identity with them. And unlike many immigrant communities that slowly blended in over time, Lindsborg chose to remain exactly what it was. Every 2 years, the town hosts Svensk Hyllningsfest, a celebration of Swedish heritage that is considered one of the largest outside of Scandinavia. People wear traditional clothing, folk music fills the air, and throughout the town you'll find giant Dalahorse statues standing nearly 10 feet tall. There is also a tradition here that has continued since 1882. Every year, Bethany College in Lindsborg performs Handel's Messiah, making it one of the longest-running performing arts traditions in all of America. A small town that chose to become something big in its own way. Next is Nicodemus. This is not an ordinary town. It is a symbol. Founded in 1877 by formerly enslaved African Americans from Kentucky, Nicodemus stands as proof of the struggle for freedom. In the middle of the harsh and unforgiving Great Plains, they built hope from nothing. At one point, the town's population reached around 700 people. But then, the railroad chose a different route, slowly destroying the town's economy. Today, only around 16 people still live there. But Nicodemus is still standing. Its status as a National Historic Landmark has helped keep it alive. UNESCO recognizes it as a unique African American historical heritage site on the Great Plains. And we end this journey in Norton with a museum unlike anything else on Earth. It's called the Gallery of Also Rans. Inside are 64 portraits of every U.S. presidential candidate who ever lost an election. From those who came painfully close to winning, to those whose names have been almost completely forgotten. There is something surprisingly powerful about that idea. In a country so obsessed with winning, there is a small town in Kansas that insists even the losers deserve to be remembered.